Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Primum Podcast Program. In today's episode, we have Will and Cedrick from Gliderscardistry. Guys, thank you for your time. How are you doing?
We're doing good. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, I want to give you a huge thanks for being part of this episode of this new season. It's been a long time since I've been sitting here making a podcast, so it's kind of it's gonna take me a little bit of time so I can get used to it. So I just once again I want to give you a huge thank guys, and also to congratulations you guys for your projects for the Aperture cards and from the Compass playing cards. They're both back to back playing cards successfully funded a Kickstarter. So so that we can start talking about that, we're gonna go back further in the time. So yeah, guys, talk to me when it all started.
Well, as Cedric pointed out a couple days ago to me, it's
Mm-hmm.
been a year almost to the day. Cedric, what day was it? It was like last week was a year today when we first started working, and I texted him and I said I got this idea for trainers, and I wanted to try it out. And he was the first product tester, so I sent him the first things I ever made. Check it.
Mhm. Yeah, so he came up to me. It was super random. I didn't expect it. He called me up, say, "Hey, do you want to try this out?" Because he knew that I had trainers, and I didn't. I'm sure he didn't know my collection was very big,
Oh,
Hmm.
but yeah, it's been. I think April 17th, I think, will be the year since we announced it and made it more public when we made our first post saying that, hey, we got this amazing product coming soon.
yeah. I'm actually gonna go back and look at the very first post to give the exact date, but
Yeah.
it, it started then, and so the first was April 17th. You're right.
Yeah.
Um, so I didn't know that Cedric has like the biggest squid collection ever. He's got so many of them, and I knew he had some, so he like, had some to compare it to. But he's like, "Oh yeah," opened his cabinet. He's got like every version ever made. So it feels like we should compare our product from the very beginning all the way to the end, and kind of compare it with the others. Like they've been the best in the biz to see how we compare. So it was really cool.
Yeah. I had the opportunity to actually test out even prototype trainers that weren't even in the market from even from European, Chinese. I was like, I wasn't a product tester, but I was able to be in the right place in the right time to learn about gliders and uh, be able to be part of the community at the time. So that I'm super happy when Will came up to me and said, "Hey, do you want to try this out?" Because I knew the market, so it was super
Yeah.
easy to get in.
Yeah, man, it's very awesome. It all start with just only one idea. And I have a really good question. Why the name Gliders? Why? When that name came from? If there were other names before? Where was the brainstorming idea for that? Talk to me about
That is definitely a Cedric question. He came up with that all by himself.
that.
Yeah.
Take that.
So Will came up to me and said, "Hey, what do you think? What should we name it?" And I think it's a funny story. I think it ha- everything lines up. I think life, you're shown information that for later on in your lifetime that you can recall it. So I watched an interview with Robert Downey Jr. for the movie. Yeah, I'm gonna give the full story. Uh, for the movie Doctor Dolittle, so his new movie coming
Yeah.
out, and he shared. So in the movie, or like actually it was a interview. I'm trying to remember. So it's an interview about the casting and the animals they used. So they tried to give Robert Downey Jr. a sidekick in that movie, which in the actual movie was not really used as they tried to. Like I think there were so many cuts, but one of the animals was a sugar glider, a little animal like little squirrel that was a
Yeah.
sugar glider. And then the other thing, I watched a video saying the most cute animals in the world, and one was a sugar glider, But the first pitch I did, I was trying to pitch a pangolin. I think is what it's called. It's like an armadillo thing, and that
Yeah.
didn't work out. But then I pitched the sugar glider, and I just clicked because if you look at a sugar glider, so it's a little squirrel. So those who are listening to the podcast, it's a little squirrel, a flying squirrel, but it's a lot cuter. I think it's more like a what's the other squirrel animal? Just a
Chipmunk.
chipmunk. It's like a little chipmunk, a flying chipmunk, and it makes the shape of a glider when it spreads its wings. So that's one of the ideas where the glider came from. So we made the logo, and then the idea behind it is like the sugar glider is not gliding with his wings. He's actually gliding with a glider. That's where the name came from. And it came from like just researching like cute animal names, and then also the interview with Robert Downey Jr. because I thought like a pangolin would have been the mascot, but that didn't work. And then just glider, a sugar glider, just clicked. It was perfect.
Yeah, and I'm historically bad with naming things, whether it's names for
Mhm.
cars, pets, whatever it is. So there are a few names that I came up with, and Cedric very politely told me those are awful. So when he said gliders, I was like, that makes sense. I like it, and we went with it. And it's funny because a lot of people can't remember gliders. Like my family and friends will be like, "Oh, those sliders. You make sliders or clackers."
Like,
Everybody calls them clackers, which is funny. So we might have to do something with clackers.
that's kind of cool, man, because I've heard before some origin stories during this podcast, and they're all different. But this one specific is a very unique one because it has like it has a lot of points when you get and took reference from it, so and make all this that you have done before. So now this question goes most to Will. What was your mindset, or what was your like your main idea when you were making the trainers? Because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you're the one who is charged of making the trainers, right? Talk
That
to me about how many hours you spend to making those trainers. I know that they have to be like a very specific temperature. I don't know if you use that type of method. We don't want to talk about like the actual method because I will take very long. But just give me like an overview on how is your work, how is your creative process, because I've seen some of your designs on Instagram which are awesome. Talk to me a little bit of that on how you get during these years to get right now at the point that you're right now in terms of the trainers.
for sure. So my first mindset going into it was I really like what other people have done with trainers. I like the idea of trainers, and I use some, but they're really expensive. A lot of the ones that were available at the time. And then in the past couple of years, no one was really making them as much as they used to, and they weren't available, and they were on eBay for like hundreds of dollars. So my first goal was I just want some trainers, so I'm going to figure out how to make them. And then from there, I realized this is something that people will be into, they'll like it, and people like Cedric can design things so we can customize them however we want. So in the beginning, it was a lot of trial and error to figure out how to do it. So there is a really long and difficult process, and it probably took us about 2 weeks to figure out the right method for different resin mixtures, how much goes on each card, what materials to use for the design itself. So that was a lot of time, and it probably took us like 3 or 4 hours per pour at the beginning, and now it takes like 50 minutes. So I can knock out a single side in 50 minutes. So the whole process, like I did some a couple days ago, and it's probably taken 2 hours so far. Just do an hour for the front, hour for the back, and just let it sit. So we've definitely whittled down the time a lot, and that allows us to put time into other things like uh, the more creative aspects, like what Cedric does with designing everything. So once we know how to design them well and make them, Cedric and I can kind of focus on what kind of designs we want to do, how we want to make them, what they'll look like, and spend more time perfecting those. So
That's really cool because there are many people in the community that make this type of trainers, and most of them they have his own methods because there are a lot of ways of making it. Um, in terms of creating the designs, what is like the process? It is the same from each design, or for example, when you're making like a back design into the trainer, or you're making like a fully, like when you make the mixture into the trainer and put on them, is the same process, or it is like different methods that you have to use.
I feel like the methods for design we use is different each time. For like most of them are
Hmm.
print. So were you talking about like different colors of the actual resin being different colors?
Yeah.
We haven't done too much of that yet, but I bought all the stuff to do.
Hmm.
So we're experimenting more with the actual colored resin because most of the time it's just white, but we're gonna start
Yeah.
experimenting with colors in there. But I feel like it's different for each design because a lot of times Cedric will just come up to me and he'll be like, "Hey, I made this thing. Look at it. What do you think?" And I'll be like, "Perfect." And other times we'll say, "We want to go with an '80s retro look. What's it going to look like? What's their inspiration going to come from?" So, Cedric, you want to talk about that just a little bit on how you get
Yeah.
there?
Well, yeah, every design is different, and none of them has had the same pattern to them. The first gliders was actually pictures from Aspen, Colorado, which was also really cool because I was able to be in Aspen, Colorado for a couple months before he reached out to me. So it was like that also was a cool thing. So those were just photography pictures, and we discovered like if you use black resin, it darkens the image. If you use white resin, it lights the image. We learned how color affects how resin affects color. And then I remember my first design was actually based on things that I liked. So at the time I was, well, I'm still into cars. Like I like cars, and the Stingers is designed by is inspired by a Corvette, Chevrolet.
Really
Not
good car.
Corvette. I'm wrong.
It's a
It's
Uh,
Camaro, right? Like I'm
Camaro,
not that into cars, but I like cars. I'm
man,
not that into. So
that's
it's a Camaro, and it's based on
okay.
Bumblebee, my favorite character from Transformers, and it has that style to it. Plus, I practice on making carbon fiber look, which we haven't done since. I think it's also a cool design. It's one of my favorites actually. For those who have video, there it
Oh
is.
yeah,
There we go.
a really
So
cool one.
so if you have in your hands, you can actually see carbon fiber look. It's not real carbon fiber. Yeah, was the second design, but then we have like another design that was made by actually Will's brother. He actually made a
Mhm.
whole program that made an algorithm to make this design. So this was not just
Oh,
like he drew it. This is actually an algorithm that was created by his brother to create this. So that's one design. Another one was just like, hey, let's do retro design, like how Will said. So let's study the retro themes and we decided to do a VHS tape, cassette gliders design. Then we have other designs that just came about, just like inspiration or what was popular at the time. The Aperture design is the best example for one that has so much evolution. Is a Because that one was like a completely different place. Where when we first started, I showed them, hey, check this out. And then we just like went so far, and then we came back and we were like, no, we have to change this. And Will was like, no, no, this sucks. Take this off, take this off. And then everything was like basically naked, and we were like, yeah, this is good. and it became one of our most popular designs.
so yeah. Now that you mentioned Aperture, let's talk about that. Guys, what can you talk to me about the Aperture playing cards? You just recently got founded. Is a really awesome playing cards. I really love the designs. I cannot wait to have it in my hands. To be honest, can you guys talk to me about how was the journey when you passed through all this procedures? So how, and then how can you talk to me how it feels when you finally see that notification, guys, you got founded? Talk to me about that. Both.
So in the beginning, like you said, we made these for the trainers first off, and everybody liked it. They really liked the gliders, and that was kind of our first time we went out and did actual product photography and put more effort into the look of it and having people demo it. And we really had a lot of fun with it. And I don't think Cedric at first thought it was going to be a deck of cards at all. I don't know if he wanted it to be, but I was like, hey, we like it. Let's just make it a deck. And I think it took a little bit of convincing, didn't it, Cedric, to get you on board with the deck? But
Yeah, because I thought it was gonna be too simple to make it into like I love the design. Like, don't get me wrong, I always loved the design, but I just thought it would be a hard sell, especially because there were so many Fontaine style cards that were just so simple and so like oh yeah, just drag and drop, it changes. Like, of course, like we didn't want to just enter that scene, so I thought there
Yeah.
had to be some uniqueness. And I think with the faces and with the colorway that we chose, we've yeah, like how I said, like it took a while before I was like completely on board. It wasn't until I actually got this feel of the prototype I was like, yeah, this is definitely gonna be a thing. But yeah, I was the, even though I designed it, I was the one that was like, I don't know if this is gonna be good enough, and I got proven wrong.
yeah, so you're welcome, Cedric. And we spent a lot of time, like we had this at first, and then once we decided we wanted to make it a deck, we were like, well, we have the entire other side of the deck. You got the faces, numbers, ace of spades, court cards. We spent a lot of time figuring out colors, getting colors right for the courts, making sure they all blended well. And I'm really kind of happy with the way they turned out, because in the beginning we had a certain colorway for the court cards. We sent it to a few people and heard their thoughts, and we changed those slightly. We found better colors that worked. I'm really proud of the way those turned out. So I can't wait for y'all all to see them. But we spent a lot of time on it, and like a lot of people take. Of course, every creator is different, but I feel like a lot of people have this idea they take with the deck, and it takes a while to think through it and perfect it, like Cedric, you did with the Compass deck. And I feel like we took that time with this deck and crunched it into like a week, and just stayed up every night working on it and getting it right. So
Yeah, so for reference, the what was it? The my first deck that I created for Kickstarter took me almost 6 years, 6 years to
Oh,
make.
yeah,
So I started in 2016, and then I recently I got funded in February is when it like got funded, and it was like super crazy because like I spent years on this deck, and it wasn't because I had so many people review it and check it out, and then things happened in my life, so it was really hard to get this out. And then this deck, I finished it in less than a month. Time it was all done less than a month.
it's
Like,
crazy
and
because Mhm.
minutes basically. It was just like t, change, and done.
it kind of felt like cheating. Like I hesitate
Yeah,
to do that, but I felt, yeah, it kind of felt like cheating.
but it's like it's a thought out deck. It's like it's not like,
Yeah,
remember, I've been like designing decks for a while, so I've designed many decks between the Compass deck, and so it's like it. I've gotten better, so to the point where like I can make decks in lot faster. So it's like that's an advantage. But yeah, like he said, it just felt like cheating.
it's
once we
it's
actually we had a prototype
Mhm.
NPC and product shots and ready to go, it was kind of, we entered into the next phase of the process with Kickstarter. So I think we spent probably just as long writing up the Kickstarter and making it look good as we did designing the deck, maybe even longer. I think we took about a month writing it out. That's probably
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
Um, and we watched like every decking around video they have on what's on Kickstarter, and we took all the things they say in different points and made sure we had it formatted exactly how people like it, was easy to read, and we really spent a lot of time on the Kickstarter making it exactly how we wanted it, and what would be the most marketable. And then we launched it. We had a date, we launched it, and that's kind of the next phase, which was super stressful because every 5 minutes I'll just be sitting in class refreshing on my phone to see if we went up anymore. And I'm sure, Cedric, you did that with the compass too, didn't you?
Oh man, I lost so much sleep. Like I was sleeping like at 2 in the morning. It was bad. Like after the Kickstarter, right now I have a terrible sleeping schedule because of it. I'm trying to like get back to a good schedule, but it's just been hard. But it takes your toll, but it is gratifying and so humbling at the end of the every Kickstarter because you think about what it actually means. There's like in my case there were like 300 people who supported me technically with the Aperture because that's also something I'm part of. Like that's 400 over 400 people that were like, hey, I love this, here's my money, and trusted us with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something. That's those are like the rewards of making some really good job, and that's why making these type of quality products, it marks your name into the community. And I know that you've done some collaboration projects. I know that you have done some projects for other playing cards company. Talk to me about that and how it feels, to work for someone else, and how was the that experience. It was a lot of work. If it was very easy, according to you guys' experience, because I know that you guys have during the time gaining some really good experience. Can you talk to me about how you guys get communicated when you're working with a collaboration? I don't know the name. I'm sorry, I forgot the name for the company that you collaborate a couple of months ago. So can you just correct me on that and talk to me how it works? Yeah, it was that one, and the other one I don't remember the name. I'm so sorry.
Sakura,
Yeah,
Sakura.
You're
Sakura
good.
playing cards. Yeah, can you talk to me about a little bit of that experience? How was working with them, working with the other company that Will showed me the trainer before. How was that experience, and what do you gain, from that experience so that you can um, took it that experience and apply it to you guys personal projects?
Yeah. So I think one of the first ones we did was with Sam's company, Samuel Gordon. Shout out to him. Chad,
Yeah.
pretty cool dude on Instagram. So uh, I think that was the first one we did. He sent us a few decks of his, and
Mhm.
those I think were the first we made out of actual playing cards. So it kind of saved me a lot of time because normally I have to use an X-Acto knife and I cut out every single one of these by hand before I pour resin on them, and that takes hours and hours. And having Sam step in and say, I have an idea, here's the deck, just start on it, was like half the work done right there. So from the bat, it was a whole lot easier, I would say, than the designs we usually do. It saves us a lot of time. Um, and it gives it a little bit of different texture on the card itself rather than cardstock. So they're unique in that way. They're fun to do. Um, and again, that allowed me to focus on really getting the resin pour down and finishing edges and making sure everything was perfect. Because I could take the time we would have designing it and put it more into the gliders itself. So that was the first one we did with Sam. That was really fun. And through that, Sam introduced us to Francis Garcia, who makes Sakura playing cards. This is the
Yeah.
one we got for him. Hard to see on camera, but he had a Kickstarter for his second deck of a similar design. I think the one on Kickstarter was blue, but these were available on there as well. And kind of the same thing. He sent us a few decks over here. He sent me a ton. And we gave people the option to choose between bordered cards and borderless like this. So that was really fun. And he was able to take some of the marketing from that, right? So all we had to do was pour it, take pictures, and he told everybody about it and brought them to us. And we saw a lot of growth through those collaborations.
Mm-hmm.
And those just kind of fell into our laps. But the most recent one was this one, the Swish playing cards. So
Yeah.
this actually took a little bit more work on our part to reach out to Card Cuts, who has this design. So I sent them an email to their contact support team and asked them if they'd be interested. And we talked for a while and worked out a contract and everything. So we did a wholesale order for them, and those are still available on Card Cuts website or Instagram. So
They only have 8 left.
8?
I checked. They only have 8 left. So if you want to get your hands on them, they're almost gone.
They're almost gone. And it was really cool to see other designers and people from around the world. Like, I don't know who designed this. I think some guy in Australia, but it's well, hopefully one day I'll get to meet him or connect with him online in some way. So, Cedric, any of your thoughts on working with other brands?
I think it's cool. Like you're also worked with your card legacy. You work with making the
Yeah,
compass one. So, yeah, so technically I also have my own brand, which would be the compass deck, and then he also worked with me. I think they're amazing.
And
I think
what was
there's a opportunity of growth in being able to work with other companies.
that's really awesome. That obviously give you a lot of experience and makes you able to do this type of work and obviously enjoying this community. And now, Cedric, this question goes for you. Talk to me about a little bit of the Compass playing cards. How you say that you took 6 years to design that that deck of cards. Talk to me how was your communication with Will designing that deck? Hey, Will, I have this.
No, no,
I know that
Will is
you've
not
got
part of it.
other.
Will was like
I know
zero
that
part.
you.
This was like me years before. This is Will got to see the original one, but he didn't even
Yeah.
remember.
oh, I remember. It told
A
me.
little, yeah, but yeah. So like I remember like so I started. That was my first deck. I was
Hmm.
like, I'm gonna design a deck of cards, and I contacted actually companies that were actually gonna print this deck before, but things fell through. That's why it took many years because I needed to make sure like the deck that I approached with had to be a little bit different because there had to be some changes. So I designed the deck of cards, and it was before I even got like big on Instagram and social medias, and people knew me as a deck designer. So it was kind of hard to like promote. But I got my biggest break was being able to go to Cardistry Con. I got to show off the deck, and I got big people checking out the deck of cards. I remember Jeremy Griffith checking them out. Kevin Ho, they don't remember. I know they don't remember. But Kevin Ho, Jaspis.
Oh,
I
Jasper, a
I
legend.
remember other magicians got to see it. I don't want to name drop everybody because I don't want to make
Yeah.
people just feel jealous. Not just kidding. No, but it was like literally it was like it was CardistryCon. You talked to everybody there. So like it was
Yeah.
2017 was able. I got so much feedback. Came back, redesigned it. So that was so from 2016 to 2017 was one design. Then 17 to 18 was a different design, and then 2019, I had to take a break and do something else. But when I came back from that, I fixed everything. I changed it, and then I was like, "This is ready for the Kickstarter." And then 2020, I decided to. It's the day. I can't procrastinate this design anymore and released it. And I got so much feedback, and people are already asking for the V2, even though I haven't even like people haven't even received their product. We're still like in proofing. So right now I'm waiting for the hard proofs. I got the digital proofs. Everything looks great. I just want to make sure one thing comes out really nice. So I'm waiting for the hard proofs on that. And it's just been overwhelming. Like I said, like I spent years on this deck, and so I hope people enjoy it. And like it's not like super elaborate. It's not like this. It's not like the James Bond Theory 11 tuck box. It's not like nothing like that. But it's something special, and there's meaning behind everything.
Yeah, that's really awesome, man. That's as I mentioned before, those type of experience give you the chance to work in this community. And during other besides other questions, I have in here a really interested question for you guys. Which other things besides cardistry you do, guys? What are your other hobbies? And if you have any other hobbies besides cardistry, like other stuff, that you can talk to me about
Go ahead, Cedric.
it.
Besides cards, let's see. I play piano and guitar. I write a little bit
Oh,
of music, so I do music. Let's see, what else? Those are the main things: magic and music. I'm a magician too, so I do
oh, really cool.
I do corporate and private events and things.
Mm-hmm.
So those are my three main things: music, magic, and cardistry.
Can you talk to me how, because at least for me, I start into this community by doing magic, and then
Mhm.
I make this transition into cardistry. Your case was the same, or you just figure it out cardistry and then magic? Because every single person is different. I personally I also play guitar and piano and the bass, which are really awesome. They're a really good art form. How do you combine all of these type of arts, if in case if that was the case that you do, in terms of when you're performing into a stage, when you're doing magic, and how do you implement that in when you at the moment that you're showing off your performance?
Right. So to answer your first question, I got into cardistry through magic. So I started off doing magic
Hmm.
for probably like 6 months before I saw cardistry, and this was back in like the early days when Andre Jake was like the only one doing stuff. I saw his videos,
Yeah.
and Zach Mueller on Expose. What was it called? Expose,
Oh,
and they
it
changed the name
was
halfway through there.
those were really good times. I'm from that time before.
So that's kind of
It
how
was The Wire before, and then
The
they changed it
Wire,
to
yeah.
Expose.
with
That man, I remember that the first few episodes. That was crazy.
and it was Kristen Gerhardt was the other girl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so those were like the early days of me getting into magic and cardistry. And somewhere in between there, between now and then, was Wizard Wars. I don't know if y'all remember that, but that was also a big part of the whole magic thing. That was really cool. But yeah, I got into cardistry through that, and I still use cardistry in performing magic and things. But I don't like to go into it with cardistry. I always like to set expectations low. I like to go in like dropping cards on purpose when I shuffle and things, just to set the bar low. And then once I've kind of broken in and um, performed a few tricks, then I'll open up and do more cardistry things like that. But I don't want to like start out with cardistry because then they're like, oh wow, if you can do that, then you can find my card, whatever, no big deal. So and through magic and music, performing on most of the time, like when I play for church or different things, I'm on stage, but I don't do magic on stage. So when I do gigs and on my website and stuff, I'm not a stage magician. I like to do close up, walk around for parties and tables and restaurants like that. So it does have a definitely has a different feel. Um, so it's interesting to try and combine doing stuff on stage with more close up stuff. But I think even having a good stage presence definitely helps even in close up situations and just being aware of your surroundings and things like that.
Yeah, man. Cedric, talk to me. What other things besides cardistry do you do?
So I also do magic, so that's my first thing. I've been doing magic longer than I've been doing cardistry, but I was always known as the card guide, so that
Yeah.
just I so I had to learn more about cards, and then cards led to cardistry. I remember learning from Dan and Dave's old videos and the trilogy and all that stuff. It's Dan and Dave. If you don't know them, they're like an indie group, just kind of growing. They're not a household name yet, you know. That's kidding. They're like super into. They're like the reason, right?
Yeah.
But
Um,
other things I do, like I love graphic design, so it's always been my thing. So I've been doing graphic designs for many years now. The other thing that I do is I love editing videos. I haven't done it for a couple years now, but I've always been behind the scenes guy. I've always loved video and audio production. Audio and video, yeah, audio and video production. Yeah, I had the orders mixed up, and it's always been something I loved. It's not something I've pursued. I've always done great things for other people, but if you look at my YouTube channels, like it sucks. Like yeah, I could never do it for myself. I always get too embarrassed. I shake too much. But when I able to work for somebody else, it's a lot better. And and I like video games. That's always been something of my things. Like I love esports. Like I don't play that much anymore, but I still love watching and rooting for a team. I think it's my form of basketball. What other things do I like? I don't know. Like there's a lot of things, but I think those are the main things.
That's really awesome, man. I mean, it all complements by itself. And my last question is just to finish this. What are not what are what is the next step for Gliders Cardistry?
Funny you mentioned that. Uh,
Yeah.
the next step, and the short term, like the next week or two, we are releasing a new design. So we're in production of the Aperture deck. So while people are waiting for them to get their decks and everything, we want to put stuff out that people can buy if they want to, or people that didn't back the Kickstarter keep having products rolling for them. So um, we're releasing these. Here's a sneak peek.
Ooh,
These are cool. Something
really
different
nice.
is each packet is unique, so all 5 packets are not the same. We're really excited about these, so I'm taking pictures of these soon. They'll be up on the site shortly. But after that, hopefully soon, we have another collaboration coming with someone. Do you want to talk about that at all, Maxwell, or do you want to keep that under wraps?
Yeah, I just want to say for those that you haven't know, Gliders is helping me for making the Kickstarter for these deck of cards. I really want to give you a huge thanks, guys. It's been a roller coaster for me for doing this. So
Also
yeah, for
for us,
now,
it's been a roller coaster
yeah.
for us too.
So in just in terms of when or where we're gonna make it, we just gonna at least for me, I'm just gonna keep in a low profile status because of course I want to you guys finish doing this your stuff. But the good thing is that this is 100% sure that we're going in collaboration with Gliders Cardistry um in Kickstarter. So yeah, I just want to give you a huge thanks, guys, for making this project possible, and I cannot wait for you guys to release those trainers on your website. And yeah, guys, I just want to give you a huge thanks for being in here. It's been a really good time talking. And as always, in all the podcasts, I'm gonna leave a link to all you guys' profiles description in here, and also I'm going to leave a link into your website, guys, too, so that you can take a look on your products, to your trainers, playing cards, everything. I know that you have seen got before some t-shirts and all the stuff. I don't know if you guys have still have available. Do you guys still have those available? So yeah, you can take a look at them, hoodies, all the stuff. These are some really good guys, have some really good potential, and I cannot wait to see you guys what you have further in the future to do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for
Yeah,
having us on. It was a lot of fun.
yeah, man. So thank you for your time, guys, and see you in the next episode. And goodbye.